Welcome back to another episode of the WORX Plus Tech Talk Grinder TV. Today we're going to be mixing things up a little bit. We're going to be talking about the machines that we've already tested, but we're going to be talking about them from a different perspective. If you own a grinder, you know there's more to it than just operating the machine. And that's all that we've looked at to date. So welcome to the show. Special guest, Hayden McDonald. Some call him Saint Hayden. Hayden, why do people call you Saint Hayden?
I'm a nice guy. I'm just helpful, Saint, yeah, maybe.
Hayden, give us a bit of rundown. What do you do at WORX Plus?
All sorts of stuff. Look, I've managed the workshop for quite a few years and I've now moved into some of the development stuff. Again, I look at these every day, looking at these machines, looking at what they come in like. So I've been watching closely on these videos you've got.
You don't just look at them though, do you? You tend to be the guy that fixes everything, right?
I tear them apart.
How long have you been doing that for?
Ooh, 6, 7 years.
6, 7 years.
Somewhere there.
Every brand, every make, every problem?
So far, yeah.
So far, every problem. So what we're going to cover today in this episode is we're going to talk a little bit more about the fundamentals of each machine. You see them from a very different perspective. Brandon and I did everything that we could to ring them for everything that they could do, productivity-wise. And you probably sat there cringing while we were ringing them, thinking, I know what's going to break next.
I'll be seeing that soon.
So I want to have a bit of a talk about some of the different types of machines that we've got here. I've already told you guys what we love about it, but Hayden's going to tell us some of the downsides to it and some of the things that he does like about it. So, hey, let's get into it and hear from Hayden the pros and the cons from a mechanical and electrical side of these things. Hayden, the OG is such an old machine, I don't even know if we need to talk about it, but it is the original and it was a groundbreaking machine. So what are some of the things that you appreciate, still like, completely dislike about the OGs? 7.5 kilowatts.
Do you want me to start with likes or dislikes?
Whatever's going to give us a shorter story.
Look, as we discussed earlier on in these episodes, it was a groundbreaking machine. It was the first of its kind in that size. Good on them. Mechanically compared to what we've got nowadays, some of the new machines, yeah, it's got a few things that need to change. It's been through the workshop to have a little bit of work done, and the mechanics now see what luxuries they have to play with compared to the earlier models. For sure.
That was effectively the Model T Ford, wasn't it?
It was, that's right.
We're not looking at Model T Fords anymore, are we?
No. Well, I know a few people that have got them, yeah. But no, look, OG, yeah. I mean, as you saw, once you got some diamond tooling under it, it'll still grind. Performance, maybe not where it could be nowadays, but yeah, for that time when it came out, groundbreaking.
And servicing life or service life on something like that these days, compared to a new machine.
Oh, look, if you're using it in modern day, you're going to do a lot of work on it. It's, they're just not built for the kind of diamond tooling and things around nowadays that take a lot more material off than what they did back then. So changes in diamond tooling have changed what machines need to be.
A lot more friction, a lot more load.
A lot, yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about much shorter service life.
Much shorter, yeah.
But hey, they're an easy machine to get around. They're nice and light, and
that's true.
Easy on the pocket. If you can pick one up.
If you can get everything for them, yes.
Until you have to repair it,
that's
right?
right.
And then it becomes not so easy on the pocket again.
Yeah.
Episode 2, we went into the King Concept, so the next version. King Concepts goes from being we've moved from the OG, a 2-belt system, single motor. Now we're going to 2 computers.
Technology.
Where did it
go?
Bit of a change here.
Bit of a change, just a little. Definitely, I mean, you're going to dual drive technology at that point, which even into today's machines, somewhere along the line, that's what people are aiming for with the performance. That's where that performance increase comes from, is being able to capture that planetary movement and control it. And that was first of its kind, really, to come out with that. Again, 2 computers, you can tweak both planetary and disk separately, which a lot of the earlier machines, single head machines, you don't have that flexibility. So again, massive change again, a much heavier machine as well. So,
much heavier duty.
Yeah.
What's the Achilles heel for these machines?
Dust.
Well,
not all of them, but yeah, definitely dust. Chainring, getting dust in the chainring, planetary seals. A lot of these earlier things, some of them weren't even originally on the machines, to my understanding. They were afterthoughts when problems occurred to try and prevent them, but somehow, 20 years later, it was still the same.
There's a big difference, however, when you go from the OG and then you go into a King Concepts machine, purely from a balance perspective and the handle ability.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
Are you talking geometry?
Maybe, I don't know. I just noticed one's a whole lot easier to get around.
Well, one's definitely heavier. Two motors, you got a lot more steel in it.
And it just seemed like it was easier to tip back than the OG.
Oh, of course. It's the designers were just onto it. No, look, definitely. It's the geometry of a machine, whether it be grinding up against walls, always, tilting back, ergonomics. That's all things that need to be thought of in a machine. And again, with the King Concepts machines, a lot of those things were there. Like, they're still, handlebar can go through a wall and things like that in the wrong circumstances. Done that once or twice. But in general, compared to a lot of the other machines, even here that we're looking at, they had it. The ergonomics was good on those. So, just a total different machine, and I think it really set a standard for what had to come out after it at that point.
So the King Concepts era, we're talking late 90s, mid 2000s, right? It's kind of the end of simplicity, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we've got very easy to operate machinery, hugely mechanical.
It's no pin.
It's no pin. That's nice. Oh, you're almost making this sound like it's a high-tech machine. The computer box, by today's standard, is nearly empty.
It is, absolutely. There's nothing in there.
From a support perspective, from your point of view, supporting a machine like this, I would imagine, is pretty simple.
Very easy. Yeah.
So we can make a living out of this machine. It's very strong. It's very robust. That's kind of in the rearview mirror now, isn't it?
It is. Still a few around, but yeah, definitely technology's changed again, which is, has its pros and cons, but certainly, these are over the phone, anywhere in the world, easy to diagnose, just simple components in them. So even mechanically, spring heads, demo heads, things like that, everything was simple, everything was easy. There was nothing, there was no mystery really. As much as many people thought there was these, nice smokes and mirrors that went on inside this cabinet and no one knew what was in there. At the end of the day, it was really basic what it was doing. So,
and if there was some smoke,
if there was smoke,
wasn't good.
You'd needed a mirror.
So moving along then to the next iteration, I mean, next phase, King Concepts moves into Husqvarna, and now we've got a slightly modified machine. We've got a new box on top and some hooks.
Yeah, a bit of weight. Oh wait, no, some of the earlier ones had the weight. No, look, we've moved up to a remote control that's obsolete, not around anymore. Where's it? It's gone.
From a cost perspective, what are we talking about? Like, you said that this is pretty simple.
Yeah.
Right? Now we're moving into something that's now radio control. So I'm assuming there's extra electronic components.
Absolutely, yeah.
We've got wheel drives, and we've got all the extra mechanisms to make those operate with the wheels, locking, unlocking, and all that sort of stuff. From a maintenance and cost perspective and level of complexity, what are we talking about?
Look, I think the biggest thing is, when you talk cost and everything, is probably downtime. That's probably the most expensive. Is that there's, the remote control gives you a reason as to why it stops. Doesn't necessarily give you the answer, and then you got to pick up the phone and make a call to find out why this has done it. On the earlier ones, it was really easy. You had one user manual that had basic fault codes, and outside of that, it was grab a screwdriver and you'll work it out, in essence. Whereas there's certain things in here you can't see, you can't touch, you don't have access to as an operator. So much harder to diagnose problems. A lot more mechanical parts, wheel drives, there's circuit boards and things inside. Just a lot of additional costs obviously involved in doing all of that. But just the next generation of machine that, with all technologies, there's, costs that get incurred in that. But still, not the worst machine in the world. We definitely work on a lot worse. But again, coming from these early King Concepts, moving over to these from a service perspective with our workshop and things like that, not that many changes. Was really quite an easy transition to move into. Once you got your head around what was inside the box and where all those wires went, it's still, up to today, we're still over the phone diagnosing problems for customers on site and being able to get them out of trouble and keep them going. Because again, machine has to come off site because someone can't answer a question over the phone. That's a big cost.
Yep, fair enough. These two machines, same kind of generation of machinery. If you could change something about them, what would it be?
If I could change something about them.
Let's not talk output, because we've done things that changes the output. This is in standard form.
Look, there's some electrical in these that I personally would say needs to be beefed up quite a lot. Achilles heel in them. Yeah, there's a few wiring plugs and things that seem to be a problem through this model and into some future generations. And the wheel drives as well seem to be quite problematic. So snapping axles and things alike. So probably 2 or 3 things I would definitely change. But in essence, the head, robust, same era, good. It's really just parts of the chassis that got changed up that just don't quite meet the requirement of what the machine's trying to do. So.
Yeah, I guess that was a bit of a surprise when the radio control came out and we actually got to strip the thing down and see what it was made of. The King Concepts machine had a real reputation for being a strong, robust machine. And then when you tore this down, it was like, that seemed a little bit on the light duty side of things compared to what the machines have been originally designed for and exposed to. Alrighty, let's move on to the next.
All right.
I'm not going to let you go on this one yet. All right, I'm going to go all the way back to this one.
We're going back in time.
Because I was having a talk with Brandon the other day, and if you've been watching, you'd know that this machine actually kind of really surprised us and blew us away. And this is kind of our favourite out of the lot.
It might be your favourite.
What are your thoughts?
Well, look, looks good in black. Give you that. Now, look again. OG machine, HCC. Big developers in this market. A lot of movement. A lot of they've moved to plastic covers and things really early compared to anyone else. They're pioneers of some of the stuff.
Pioneers of plastic.
Pioneers of plastic.
Surely they were pioneers of more than just that.
Absolutely. I mean, look, some really good technologies they've used. They were early days of remote controls and things like that. Like a lot of benefits in these machines. Mechanical, pro and a con. They got parts in there that are basically throwaway parts. You can't rebuild them, so when it's dud, throw it out, put a brand new one in, which is great. It makes working on them really easy. Makes it very expensive for the owner, compared to having rebuildable parts like all the King Concepts where you can rebuild pulleys, just changing bearings, essentially. These were a big change in that. Forehead, again, 3-head versus 4-head. Arguments going on for years, Ford and Holden. But look, even, they got their weights and everything on there. Electrically, not a bad machine. Remote's a little light on, but again, early days. It functioned, it did what it did. It's biggest really problematic part to these machines is plastic covers get smashed and bashed really easily. They don't seal very well. Guys love the strips along the bottom of the covers, but they get grouted in them. Within 2 jobs, they're basically a solid piece of concrete dragging across the floor. Handlebar mechanism sounds good on paper, I reckon. It tends to be pretty complicated, very hard to fix. But look, in general, look, you guys found a good machine, relatively solid. They're heavy. Moving them around's hard. They're a long machine. Throw a jockey wheel on there. It's a big machine for big meters at the end of the day.
Yeah, and we certainly noticed that even with Brandon. He weighs about 450 kilograms, and he had difficulty tipping this machine back. He needed me to help him on some of those tip backs. But I mean, this machine, it gave the 820 a bit of a hiding. I kind of had a good laugh, and kind of fell in love with this machine, partly because of the simplicity, and because they were pioneering the radio control at the time. But absolutely, one of the things that drove us nuts was that was the first time we really had to hook up the 2 extractors to get that floor clean underneath. And of course, that was a bit annoying. Not a pro for me either, but robust old girl. I just wouldn't have to pay for I wouldn't want to have to pay for the repair bill on it when everything goes.
That's right. That's exactly right. Achilles heel on this is water ingress, dust sealing. That's really, they're the main things. Get rid of those 2 things and good machine.
Right.
Just expensive.
All right, well, I'm going to move on to the next one, and I want to get your feedback on this one, because this one was a bit of a feature as well.
Bit of a feature.
Yeah, this was the last one that we ran. And what was surprising was that this was the next iteration. And I'm expecting you're going to be able to tell us something about this machine that Brandon and I didn't notice. Because when Brandon and I ran it, was like, oh, it looks really cool. We were expecting, because it was new model, it was going to smash the old one. And we were so wrapped with what the old one did, we're like, we can't wait to run this one. And then when we did, the differences were marginal. It seemed like it didn't have as much grunt.
Yep.
And we just thought we were going to be able to push this thing. There were things that we liked about it. We already spoke about that in the video that we did. But I want to know from your perspective, why wasn't there a massive difference between the old and then the next generation? I mean, between the OG and then the 800 RX, there was a massive leap. And then the X8.
Look, a part of it's probably weight. The construction of these is all cast alloy internals, really lightened down on things like fly pulleys. They've cut weight out of a lot of the parts. So part of it could have been weight related. I mean, horsepower wise, much of muchness between the two. I mean, would have been surprised on that, because drive technology in this is a lot further on than that. So, things like ramping up probably would have been smoother. A few of those sorts of things that you would expect. But again, sealing wise, still got similar issues on these. From dust and everything through the front. Yeah, still got the strip down the bottom on these, but. Look, definitely the head design is slightly different. You've got a different belt mechanism inside. They're not using a flat belt anymore. It's a rib belt, so a bit more temperamental to heat. Wouldn't even say better grip than before. You can't tension them as much, so if you get stuck in slippage of any sort, you're going to see it more on this than you probably will on the earlier one. But again, probably a lot of it is weight. They're not a massively heavy machine, and as you can see, they've got much bigger weights than the other one for being able to throw down to get extra over the top. They would be off the top of my head the main reasons that you're seeing that big difference. Yeah,
right. Okay. I mean, it did seem a lot smoother. It when we were running the old one, it just felt like a brute to run it. And then when we ran the new one, it did feel a lot smoother, and we were surprised with the results that we got, because it did seem, even though it wasn't worlds apart in productivity, it did seem to get there easier. Right?
Yeah, it was definitely easier.
We just thought it was going to be a bigger leap.
Yeah. Look, it's the technology leaps may not necessarily be straight performance, because again, we know diamond tooling, horsepower, weight equals productivity at the end of the day. And there's not a huge change, if anything, maybe a little bit less weight overall on the machine in general. But certainly, you should have a bit more control with the new technologies in the drives. Better ramping up, and when it is loaded up, you'll probably find this will handle the load better than that will. That's much more of a point and shoot, whereas this will ramp up and down, let it rev, throw more power at it when it needs it, whereas that's just throw as much power at it and hope it does what it needs to in that technology of drive. So
maybe I'm just old school.
Exactly right.
All right, we've missed one. No, this way.
Oh, over here, all right.
Okay, so I wanted to come back to this, saving the newest to last. This is the latest iteration of concrete grinding machinery in the big brands. And if you watch the series, you know that Brandon and I struggled with this one. And the rule of the game was we had to run all these machines, but we weren't allowed to call for help. You watched the video. I didn't show all of the difficulties that we ran into. You know these machines better than just about anyone out there. You're like a doctor. People only come to you when they're sick. So as far as you're concerned, everyone's sick. Right? So everyone who calls you has got a problem with these machines, any of these machines. So you get a lot of experience. If I had called you when I was having difficulty, what would you have said to me?
Which problem would you like to refer to?
Well, when we were running it, we were trying to push it pretty hard. And what we kept on coming up against was it kept on going into overcurrent, over temperature. And so we kept on trying to find this line where it was comfortable, but it kind of just got up to this line. And then as soon as we slipped out of the donut or so, it would just shut down. Whenever we had it on its edge and then we just bumped it, with the older machines, it kind of goes, if you feel like you've got it, you can hear it in the motor and then you can pull back, you've got enough time to reset. But in the later generation machines, it seems like that's not there, that buffer. Maybe we're just running them harder anyhow. But yeah, the 830 that we ran on the day gave us a lot of trouble. Maybe we weren't being very kind. I just want to know, what would you have said?
I mean, of course, would have started off with what kind of power you're running, gone through all the general basics.
12 volt.
12 volt, 5 amps, it's fine. Look, in terms of it falling over, again, when we're talking about drive technology, there is big differences in them. Most of the manufacturers, even going back to these earlier machines, they spec the motor and the drive almost identical. Now, on paper, that's fantastic, great. It works. You put it in a factory on a wall, no problem. When you put it in the field, loose connections, generators, all sorts of other unknowns.
All the other variables.
All the variables. You start having the risk of either the power's not exactly how you want it, or there's one phase that's got a bad connection, and that can start affecting what the drive's going to do with it. The other problem is if you're match for match, you don't have that little buffer of we can pull a little bit harder.
Yeah.
A lot of these motors, they can take a lot more than what they're rated to for short periods of time. So like you were saying, you're just going along, you just get up out of the groove, and it needs a bit more power to do it. Frequency converter goes, oh, we've got too much power, we've got to do something with this, we can't keep going like this. Okay, I need to shut down because this could possibly damage something in here. Whereas the earlier generations were spec'd a bit higher, so you had a bit of room to go, I can pull a bit more current and go a bit longer here and there. So that would be my initial. Again, secondly, big difference in the machines themselves from weight, disc sizes, ratios internally. There's a whole lot of other factors that pull into that. But straight off the bat, if you had to call me saying I'm having this problem, check your power. What's it doing? Hey, just tone it down a little bit.
That's I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming.
You're going to have to put up with. And again, lots of guys have success with it. Lots of guys don't. It's a real. There's no pattern to it. Some guys just get their head around it or accept that's what it's going to be. Other guys say, hey, I can push this thing as hard as I possibly can, and it never fails. Is there a difference mechanically, electronically, batch for batch? Who knows?
Right.
No one will ever know that.
Okay, speaking mechanically then.
Mechanically, yeah.
Gen 1, Gen 2.
Yep.
Any differences?
Or
is it just the covers?
No, there's some big differences. Again, like I said, drive technology, big difference. Still running the same remote system, so unfortunately some of the inherent problems of wheel drive pins, things like that are still there. They've fixed some of the stuff around the axles and that. They've put a bigger axle in it to prevent snapping axles and things. So they've definitely changed up a few of the mods. They've kept the nice handles, the latching mechanism on the inside as it was. But certainly the head design, very much like the last machine we looked at. It's headed overseas to the same guys that built that one. And they've basically started retrofitting and playing around. So cast housing, rib belt, a lot of differences in the fly pulleys and bearing makeup inside compared to these. So totally different machine internally.
That is a big difference, isn't it?
It's a big difference, huge. Whether it be from how well it performs to maintenance costs to the weight of the machine, there's a whole lot of things that plays into. So they're definitely not from the same tree.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So they really lost a lot of their genetics when they.
Correct.
When they went to the Gen 2. All right. Well, that's really been quite an interesting journey that we've just gone through. Not saying it makes it much easier for me to make a decision what I'm going to run if I was going to go out there, but I've got a soft spot for that little 800 RX. as old and pretty as she is.
That's right.
Okay, so that's been a really good journey through all the different types of, all the different iterations, the ages of the machinery. If you were to make another machine, right, seeing what you've seen, the pros, the cons, the stuff that you do like, what would it look like?
I'm the doctor, not the creator. Like, if these guys are going to operate machines, why don't we ask them what they want?
All right. If you were to have a brand new machine that Hayden was going to work on, you want to keep him happy, you want to keep the operator happy, what would it be like? Tell us. We'll talk about it in the next episode.